on Bais. Today's Daf Chav, but I'm going to start with Ularava. That is just to go back to the beginning of the sentence. Otherwise, we're in the middle of a sentence. 4 lines up from the bottom. It's a technical Gemara. Most of the Gemara is still about the difference in Tumah. Today, at the end, we'll have something very practical about making a talus out of, for instance, synthetic materials and polyester and things like that. So, but that we'll learn Mitzvah Hashem at the end of the shiur. So, the Gemara was talking about the difference between 3 finger widths and 3 tvachim, which makes a big difference. That 3 finger widths, first of all, is a size, a patch, would only be usable by somebody that's very poor, and the rich people would just throw it away. So it's not so chashuv, it's not an important piece of material, and it can't be called a beged for everybody. And on the other hand, 3 tvachim, which is roughly, even not very big, because it's 4 inches by 3 inch by 4 by 4 inches. So it's about 16-inch square. It's also not much of a beged, but it's more chashuv. And Chazal thought that that's something that even a rich person would use at least as a patch. Okay, so the Morah is like this now. So according to Rava, who holds that by other types of begadim, in other words, not flax and wool, but other types of begadim, that 3 by 3 by 3 tfachim. So that's the difference between Reb Shimon ben Elazar and Rabbi Shmuel, which means Reb Shimon ben Elazar is lay. So Reb Shimon ben Elazar hold that it could become tamei, and Latana de Rabbi Shmuel Lesley, according to the Tana de Rabbi Shmuel, it can't become tamei. So shloisha begat b'shar begadim. So what about a 3 tfachim by 3 tfachim? Again, roughly 16 inches in a square. So what would we say? So now we're going to go to Daf Chav Zayin. So how would Reb Shimon know that that becomes tamei? So the Gemara answers nafka mi oi. So we learn that from oi or o, however you like to pronounce it. So we're just going to make a bracha over here. Sanya, we learned in a Bais, beged. So when the Torah says beged, so we had like this. This Gemara said before also that this Bais was talking about the beged that touches a sheretz. So beged ainly a beged shloisha b'shar begadim enayin. What if it's 3 tfachim by 3 tfachim and it's not let's say one of these other types of materials, but it's not wool and linen. It's something else. Talmud loyma oy beged, any beged. So the Gemara says, so that's very good according to Rava. What does he do with beged? So we have the classic beged, which is either wool or linen. Whenever the Torah talks about a beged, it usually means wool and linen. We learn it out from Shatnez. So we say the mitam b'shrotzim. So how do we know? The question was, what does Abaye do with this pasuk? So he says that this teaches us if there's a very, very tiny little beged, quote unquote beged, it's really a more like a patch, that it also can become tamei if it touches the sheretz. So how does he know that? Apparently the Gemara thought that everybody holds like this. Once the Torah told us that it has this din if there's a negat soras that's made out of wool and flax or linen. And so the same thing is for shrotzim. It's called a bamematzinu, or as we'll take a look in Rashi, so it's also called over here a binyan av. So what is a binyan av or a bamematzinu? We learn out from this to all others that are similar to it. So Abaye, how come Abaye doesn't like the binyan av versus ikal mifrach? Now let's just talk about a little bit about a binyan av. Every binyan av means that just like this, we're going to apply it to that. Well, but the two have to be roughly equal. So if you have either flax and linen, which are very classic begadim, but others are not, or you have something that's 3 by 3 tefachim, which is big enough for a rich person, not just for a poor person. So that would be different than all other begadim, which are not mentioned in the Torah, or other begadim that are so tiny. So we could say Mal Negoyim also has a certain, in other words, a negatzaras, a leprous kind of a skin problem. So Mal Negoyim sheken shesi ve'erev mitame behem, that if you have even the tiniest little thread from the warp and the woof, that means the roughly the long and width, more or less, the vertical and the horizontal. So we say that sheretz tumah, but sheretz tumah doesn't have that chumrah. So where it says v'idach, so what does Rabbi hold? Rabbi answers Rabbi. Rabbi would say like this: if you would say that Negoyim is more chamor than shrotzim, so lichtrach gabi shrotzim. So the Torah should have said this whole halacha about wool and flax, that if it's 3 by 3 fingers, that it gets tumah for laisu Negoyim minai, because Negoyim were much more machmir than shrotzim, and we would have said, of course, a negat tzaras becomes tummy from such a tiny little thing. Morah says, good, find that worse for Rava. Now we go back and forth. V'idach, what does Abai hold? Morah says, no, Abai would say, Negoyim is lo yosi. You can't learn Negoyim from shrotzim, even though a nega seems to be more machmir than shrotzim. I'll give you a Corona example in a minute, if you don't mind. I'm obsessed with Corona today. I have to give a drasha. We're going to talk about Corona in a couple of minutes. Because we could ask a kasha, because by shrotzim it becomes tamei, even if it's a tiny little thing, it's tamei bechadasha of a lentil. So the Gemara says now like this, that in other words, we have to understand over here what are the different sizes. So a tzaras has to be the size of a gris. Now, a gris, everybody knows this from Hilchos Nida, when there's a kesem. I didn't have a chance to check if the art school would bring this, but maybe it doesn't bring this kind of stuff. But a kesem is generally considered to be either a dime or a penny, depending upon which opinion we take. But when we take a look over here, that a lentil, so a gris is about 9 times the size of a lentil. So the lentil's nageya us right now coming up for Pesach because of Kehillas. Although we're tending this year to be a little bit makel on Kehillas, but only for certain things, like for instance, not to eat them, but for instance, in medications, we're being very makel because everybody has to have their medicines now, and we're even being makel a little bit on vitamins because people are a little bit short on vitamins. So we're saying that if there's a lentil bean type of thing in it, if there's Kehillas, we're being mata even for Ashkenazim because Sfardim are always makel on this. So anyway, so the Gemara says that we're making a kal v'chomer. So I'll just tell you my Corona thing for a moment. So there have been in the past certain types of quote unquote plagues, magefis, of things that are epidemics, maybe not pandemics, but they didn't kill anybody. They made people sick, and in fact, in our history, Linette, I might talk about a little bit later on the drush. I'll give you a little bit of a kind of like a pricey of it, that there were epidemics that were only on the animals. So let's say there's a problem with the animals, and the animals are going to die. So we say that you have to do certain things to protect the animals. Then if chas v'shalom, we have a pandemic, an epidemic that's killing people, so kal v'chomer that we have to do certain things, for instance, social distancing, let's say. So somebody will say, social distancing, big deal. Well, what do you mean? This is more chomer than an animal type of an epidemic. Anyway, over here, that's what the Gemara is saying. The Gemara just said that when we talk about something like the Negoyim are usually we're more machmir than the Shrotzim. So now the Gemara brings what seems to be a machlokes in Tana Debei Rabbi Shmuel. So I just want to share with you a very interesting thing, because we just had a little confusion about what Reb Moshe, and amongst the Rabbanim, let's say, what Reb Moshe Feinstein held about something, and Lahavdu B'chaim L'chaim, what Reb David Feinstein holds. One rabbi said this, one rabbi heard something else, until we resolved it. It's called Hachiyava Kasva Shlishi V'Yachriya B'Neim. So this is an old story, because the Gemara brings two opinions about the Tana Debei Rebbe Yishmael, and that's because there were two Talmidim in the yeshiva, and apparently at this point of the Gemara said it's a contradiction. One said one thing, the other said the other thing, all in the name of Rebbe Yishmael. So what was this? Omer Abaye said, Hi Tana Debei Rebbe Yishmael, Matik Meidoch Tana Debei Rebbe Yishmael. He seems to have a stira, contradiction, and therefore he, in Yiddish, slugs up, refutes the first Tana Debei Rebbe Yishmael that we learned. The Tana Debei Rebbe Yishmael, what did we learn before? Beged, so we said like this. Beged, so what does the term mean when it says by sheretz, a beged that becomes tamei, a beged that comes tamei from a sheretz, like for instance, a creepy, crawly thing crawls on a beged and then dies. When it's alive, by the way, it doesn't spread tumah. But then it dies, it drops dead on the garment, so it makes the beged tamei. So it says, "Ein le'el beged semer upishtim." So since the Torah, when it says beged, it always means flax or linen. What about a different type of a garment, which is from camels here? V'tsemer arnovim, or rabbits here, or noitza shalizim, or goats here. Shirayin rather, which is a kind of like a silk, ba'kaloch, or another type of a silk. And then there is basrikin, another type of a silk. Now, what is the difference between all these types of silks? So there's regular silk, and then there's kalach silk, which is like getting fancier and fancier, and then there is the srikin is really more like a corded silk. So anyway, the Gemara says, Talmud Laima Oy Beged. So since the Torah says Oy Beged, so it tells us that any Beged, any garment that's made out of any of these things can be Mekabel Tumah. So when we get into Mitzvah Hashem a little while, what we put our tzitzis on, so for instance, during the summer, coming up, as Hashem is Morah, believe it or not, the summer is coming. So hopefully we'll be able to go places and do things. So the question is, all these different types of tzitzis that are made of like these funny garments that are really not exactly wool, and they're not even cotton. So are we mekayim tzitzis? They're very good in the heat, but are we mekayim the mitzvah tzitzis on it? Because the Torah says beged that you have to have tzitzis al kanfei on the begadim. So let's see what the Gemara says. We'll get to it in halacha in a couple of minutes. So Rava says, the Gemara had said that there seems to be a contradiction between these two statements in the name of Rabbi Shmuel. So Rava says, does this Tana Rabbi Shmuel not hold that all other the begadim sholosh al sholosh, which are just 3 finger breadths, 3 finger widths by 3 finger widths, shloisha islay. So, but when it comes, so that's where he doesn't hold of it. But shloisha islay, we said before that if you say that something is not a beged when it's only 3 fingers, so but 3 tfachim, everybody would agree that it is. So even this time the Rabbi Shmuel would hold that it is. Where it says that can't really be. But Yehudah didn't Rava say shloisha kishar begadim, that if you have 3, even if you have 3 tfachim by 3 tfachim, that it's not like tzemer pishtin, it's not like linen and wool, but it's like other types of garments. So Reb Shimon ben Elazar is Leila Tana ben Rabbi Shmuel Lesley. So this Tana ben Rabbi Shmuel does not hold that it's susceptible to tumah. So it's a contradiction in Rava. So Ryan says, no problem. Hoda be Rava, may I he. Rava changed his mind. Now the Gemara says another answer, because we usually don't like to say that Amar changed his mind so easily. It was really never Rava. We made a mistake. It wasn't really Rava. It was Rav Papa. Rav Papa Amar, because Rav Papa said, Afko lasuya klayim. Because the Tana said these things also. What did he come to add? So he came to add that there are other things that you're not allowed to mix. We say it's only linen and wool and linen. He said there's other things also that are mixed. So Morah says, no. You can't say that because the Torah says the only 2 things that are forbidden. The Torah itself says only wool and linen. So you can't say that something is something else is usher. So the Gemara says, no. I would have thought, Hani derech levisha, that when it comes to a garment, so a beged, so when is it asur? It's asur if you wear it, law. But if it's only like a let's say a cover, a bed cover, that you're gonna pull it up on yourself. So kol trini mini asur. So maybe then any two different types of cloth are all asur. So as Gemara says, no, you can't say that because we'll have kal v'chaymu. It would be a kal v'chaymu. In other words, you can't say that. Well, I can wear it in a beged, but I can't wear it in my bed sheet. It's not shayach. Why? Because the assumption is that when somebody puts on a hat, or let's not say a hat, but a jacket or a shirt or a pair of pants or a dress, all these types of clothing, so we say that it's only wool and linen that's forbidden. So halo, just to bring it all over on yourself, like kolshkein, so then we would say, of course it's mutter. So therefore, the Gemara says, "El Rav Papa v'dusahi." So the Gemara has to say that Rav. So we always said it's not Rav, it's not Rava. But now we're saying even further that even what Rava said is a mistake because we couldn't defend that statement absolutely at all. Okay, let's go further. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. Now we're going to go to Amud Bais. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak Amar, he said, Af kol, when the Tana said that all other garments of wool, he meant only wool and flax. So where it says, what do we add from this? Lasuye tzitzis. So this comes to tell us that tzitzis. So Morah asks again, tzitzis behedjiksiv, because how do we know that tzitzis refers to only the garments that are made of wool and linen, and that's going to get us into polyester in a little while, and all those other things that I mentioned before. Because from this Gemara it seems that tzitzis behedjiksiv, that since the Torah says specifically tzitzis, because it says lisilva shatnas semer pishtim ogdilim taselacha, so there's a juxtaposition in the Torah of two things. Don't wear shatnas, which is also called klayim, because klayim is a kind of like a buzzword for everything that's mixed animals, mixed breeds, like, for instance, the mixed seeds in a kerem in a vineyard, and mixed cloths and clothing. You can't wear wool and linen together. So then it says right away after that, the Torah Gedilim Tasalacha. So we learn from that. That's like that kind of a juxtaposition is also called smuchim, where you make. Remember we had machlokes Beis Shammai Beis Hillel about that. If the things are next to each other, so the Torah means to say that by tzitzis, not only is there a heter to wear klayim. Now, we don't do it anymore, we said, remember, but classically, you could wear klayim shatnez if you're really doing the mitzvah of tzitzis properly, which most of us don't do, because either we're not wearing Kehillas or we don't know if it's the real Kehillas. So today, we don't wear wool and linen together, but minat Torah you can. But the upshot of that also is that if you wear any other cloth other than either wool or linen, your tzitzis are not kosher. That's what seems to come out of this Gemara. So, the Morah says that why, in other words, this was a kasha on Rav Nachman. So the Morah says no. So how could that do Rava? That we thought that we hold like Rava, because Rava asked the steer, and the way they resolved it comes out a little bit different than Rav Nachman. The Rava Rami, it says like this in the Torah. It says ksiv hakanaf. It says kanaf, the tzitzis should go on the corner. So it says min kanaf. So that seems to imply that whatever the garment is, let's say it's linen, so the tzitzis also have to be linen. And then it says wool and linen together, which sounds like that you can put a tzitzis of wool on a linen garment and a tzitzis of linen, linen on a wool garment and wool on a linen garment. Where so okay, said how could this be? So the Gemara says like this: that it seems that you could use wool on any garment and linen on any garment. However, sharminin, but if the tzitzis are made of anything else, b'mina paitrin, say the tzitzis that goes, for instance, like we said before, let's say corduroy or polyester, or all these more modern types of garments. So if you have something that's made, the tzitzis are made from any of those, only b'mina and paitrin. So you can have a corduroy baged, and you put a corduroy shirt, and you put right on it tzitzis of corduroy. And the same thing would be made out of polyester. Shaloi b'mina and paitrin. But you can't, it's not as powerful as wool or linen. Wool and linen tzitzis you could put on anything.
So where it says, so what do we see? How do we even explain Rav Nachman? So we would think that we don't really say this pshat, and we say Komash Malon that what that we don't worry about this pshat of kanaf because that was Rav Shita. We don't hold like Rav. Now the Gemara says, what about what the first Tana said? Amar Rav Acha B'rei Rav. Rav Acha B'rei Rav said to Rav Ashi. L'Tana de Rabbi Shmuel, according to the Tana of Rabbi Shmuel, Maishno Linyan Tuma. So how come by Tuma we said the Marbi Shar Begodim that anything can be Makabel Tuma. If you have a beged, it can be Makabel Tuma, no matter what it's made out of. Because the Chsiv Oy Beged, it says in the Torah beged. So Chanami over here also Lemel Rabbi Shar Begodim. So it should say. Rabbi Shabagodim versus Chasaba. So we say that we learn this out from that since the Torah said Chasaba, anything that you cover yourself with, so that means that any garment is can be makabel tumah. So Morah says, no, that pasuk we can't use for anything. Because the pasuk comes to tell us that even if somebody is blind, so it comes to tell us the Sanya we learned in the Raisa that the beged, even wool or linen of a blind person, said it's excluded. Why? The Sanya we learned in the Raisa or Isa Maisai, the Torah says you shall see the tzitzis. So what do we learn out from there? Prat l'ksus laila. So it seems to be as opposed to your pajamas. Your pajamas, you don't have to put tzitzis on your pajamas, even if they have four corners. So Morah says, is that really true? I told him prat l'ksus laila. You mean as opposed to pajamas? Or maybe means as opposed to the garment of a person that's blind. Since it said that you cover yourself, even a blind person covers himself, he gets dressed. So what do we learn from Orisa? That your pajamas don't have to have tzitzis, because it's only what you wear by day. Right? Yes. Wait a minute. Why is it a better drasha to say that the clothing of a blind person has to have tzitzis and the pajamas don't? Gemara answers because of the following: because other people can see, even though the blind person can't see his own garment, but other people can see it, so it's capable of being seen. We might say but pajamas in the olden days, nobody saw anybody's pajamas because there were no lights around. It was impossible to see them. So nobody ever saw ksus laila at all, except obviously on a rare occasion. So it says, so maybe why don't we say that Ashet means all other types of clothing, in other words, not just wool and linen. So it says, since the Torah started off saying about Tzemer Pishtim, Mar B'Tzemer Pishtim, so we're going to learn something about a blind person's wool and linen garments, but not about other types of garments. But would you say that when we talk about Tzemer Pishtim, Mar B'Shar B'Godim, we're going to switch all of a sudden, we're going to talk about other things like, let's say, cotton, or like I mentioned, all these other types of materials. So that Gemara says, Rabbi said like this. This goes back to the Gemara in the last daf. Reb Shimon Elazar Sumchus Amru Davar Echad. Gemara said that Reb Shimon Elazar and Sumchus, they both said the same thing. So Reb Shimon Elazar Adamaran. That's what we said in the Brisa. But what did Sumchus say? Now, by the way, what was the Brisa? So the Brisa was, just in case we forgot, that he said that anything that comes from something that grows is good for schach, so except for flax. Right? So since he didn't say a garment that comes from flax, so it's mashma that the flax before it became a garment, that means it wasn't spun yet or it wasn't woven yet, etc., etc. Now, what did Sumchus say? That was what Shimon Elazar said. Sumchus said, let's say you put on the schach, on top of your sukkah, flax that was already spun into threads, so then it became a kli. Since a kli could be makabel tumah, since it could be makabel tumah. Now, Rabbi said, what is this negeya us? I mean, obviously we're before Pesach now, not Sukkot. It's hard to tell these days where we're holding. But let's say that we can switch to Sukkot for a second. What can't you put on top of your schach? So, for instance, you can't put iron or anything metal because it could be makabel tumah. Nails even, right? Nails are metal, and you can't in general, you can't nail the schach down. You have to be very careful. So some say it's because of Teshuvah and Taduru, but some say that it's because it has to be a diras ara. It has to be temporary. And anything that's actually tacked down, so it can't be. But let's say you won't tack it down, you just use some tacks that's not so permanent. But then the metal is a problem. So we say that on the side a little bit you can have, but you can't have like a whole running rod that's metal. But not only that, also, for instance, if you have boards, now if it's a board that's used for ceiling, to make a ceiling, you can't use it. If it's a certain width, we're not going to go into it right now. So then there's a thing called Xeris Tikra, because it looks like a regular house. And if the roof over your sukkah looks like a house, then it's possible. But others say it's because it's makabel tuma. And over here, we just learned in this Gemara that even if you were to take the flax and it hadn't yet, we're not talking about you put a pair of pants on top of your sukkah. All you do is you put some flax that was spun and it's ready to be woven into a garment. It's still already a kli and it's makabel tumah. If it's makabel tumah, it can't be schach. So Gemara asks, come on. So who holds like this? The Gemara says, ki haitan. So in other words, Abaya said that even the flax that's not spun yet, even though it's not a kli yet, you can't use it as schach. So where did he get this from? Gemara says, ki haitan, this not. Because we learned this from the following Tana. So the Gemara said like this, we said, Shesi ve'erev mitama b'negoyim miyat. So let's say that you have the threads that are coming off of, it was used on a loom type of thing, and you have the shesi and the erev, the warp and the woof, and it becomes tamei as soon as it was spun. Rabbi Yehudah says no, hashesi mishayishla. So the warp, it's good. In other words, after it was pulled out. So what does that mean? It was pulled out of what? It was pulled out of the hot kettle. It's in a hot pot. And over there, what happens in the hot pot is that it has to be whitened because that's the nature of what you're doing with this. And va'erev, the other threads, that's right after miyad means after it was spun. Va'una shel pishtan, on the other hand, the flax, even if it was unspun, but after it was bleached, so then it comes out of the oven, then it's finished. So the point of these things is that something that's unfinished can never be makabel tumah, and that's a rule. If you start in Cedarhurst, to learn this, you'll see that that's the biggest rule in Cedarhurst. Okay, let's learn the Mishnah. Mishnah says like this. Now we go back to all the basic Mishnayos in Bameh Madlikin. So, remember we learned this, anything comes from a tree and Madlikin boy, you can't use it as a wick, except for flax. Flax you can use for a wick. So then it says anything that comes from a tree and in metamatumas oilim, it can't become tamei in an oil. In other words, if there's a dead body, there's a corpse, and this is in the same room, so pishta, only pishta becomes tamei that way. So now let's just take a little bit of Gemara, and we'll be finished with the daf. Maybe we'll learn a little bit about the tzitzis for Bisman Hazeh. So what does the Gemara say? That when we're talking about Pishton, so it says a madlikin kol yotzim in eitz. So is flax really called a tree? We don't talk about a flax tree, talk about an apple tree, right? Or maple tree. So the Gemara says Menolan the Pishton ikri eitz. How do we know that it's called eitz? So the Gemara says Amar Mazutra the Amar Kro. So it says like this by Yoshua, when Yoshua and Kalev. So it says, actually, this is in Sefer Yoshua. So it says when the two Meraglim were hiding and the Rachav saved them. So it says she put them up in the roof and she hid them where? In the flax. So she didn't just say in the flax. It says the pishtei ha'etz, in the trees of flax. So you see that the Torah is very interesting that we learn out of halacha from Rachav, who, by the way, later married Yoshua. So she was originally a Zaina, Rachav Zaina, but apparently she did Shuva, and she became a great lady, and she married Yoshua. So anyway, so the Gemara says that we learn out from her this halacha about pishtei eitz. And then it says, vayotzim in eitz, and anything that comes out of a tree, and imatamatum oilim ela pishton, versus menolon. So the Gemara is this we'll do tomorrow. So we also have to decide when we're learning tomorrow, Mitzvah Hashem. We used to learn in the morning. I can't do mornings yet. We still have sick people in the house, and I was kind of like needed every morning for them, and mornings are difficult. So Naftali a little bit and others. So I really can't do mornings yet. Maybe Mirz Hashem, I hope we'll be back together again. But if not, Chas v'Shalom. So we'll talk about Cholamayit. But as of now, we'll still learn in the evenings Cholamayit, but then we'll discuss it for beyond that. So tomorrow, I don't know if we could learn at 7:30. I'm available tomorrow. So anything good from about 12 o'clock. Any suggestions? I can do it anytime after noon, literally noon. Anybody? The later
12 or 1.
12 or 1? 12 or 1, okay. 12 or 1, Gabriel? Anybody else? 12 or 1. So I'd rather do 1. Does anybody mind? 1 o'clock, yeah? 1 o'clock. Uri, was that a vote? 1, okay. 1 o'clock. Okay, so 1 o'clock. Unless there is a demurring opinion, so we'll learn at 1 o'clock. But I just want to take, if you don't mind, this halacha, which is very, very important about other materials for tzitzis. So the kids like these things that are made of, I forget what already, in the summer. If anybody knows, just jump in. But they're very sheer. And
a mesh?
Like a mesh, yeah, like a mesh. So, so first of all, the Gemara says, we're talking about over here, I mentioned polyester. I don't think I mentioned nylon. So, Reb Moshe has a shayla b'dvar elu shabimayska kayetz hachamim in the hot summer days. Lil bosh b'am tzalis shel tzemer. They don't want to wear wool. Im yichayim l'kayim. I'll tell you in a minute. A tremendous chiddush from Reb Chaim Kanievsky. You'll hear in a minute. If you've ever seen Reb Chaim, especially in the hot days, he's not wearing wool. He's wearing cotton. So we're going to bring a raya from the pictures, although many of us have seen him in person wearing cotton, and I'll tell you in a minute about that, where that comes from. So he says, it's hard to wear wool. So Reb Moshe brings nylon. So he writes like this. The Godim Elu Peturim and Atzitzis. Rabbi Moshe is very machmer. He says, you hear this? He says, the Peturim and Tzitzis, Chimashadino, Ketalu, Shal Or, it's like leather. So he goes on and he says, even though you could be mechalik, but at the end he says that there's even a chashash of shatness in some of these begadim. And he says that you because they're daimil petzemer pishtim, etc. Anyway, he says that you shouldn't wear them for tzitzis. So the believe it or not, the Kloisenburger Rebbe, that's what Moshe is machmer, right? The Kloisenburger Rebbe is mekel, zechatzadik levracha. It's called Divrei Yitziv. It's a whole bunch of reasons, but all of his farm are called Yitziv something or other. He says, it's not because only that something that grows from the ground is called a beged. Al machmas, because of the Tana de Rabbi Shmuel that we just learned. This is the Kleisenberger Rebbe quoting our Gemara. She says, Shirak tzemer pishtim kurim beged. So he says that only tzemer bishtim is called a beged. Be'emes aflin and tzitzis, that's Rabbi Shirak tzemer bishtim chayav min ha-Torah, fi Shirak hem kurim beged. Ach midrabanan gam shar begodim mechayavim. He says midrabanan they're all chayav and tzitzis. So here's the thing. It's a little bit of a just a difficult halacha, but I'll just tell you very briefly. So Reb Chaim wears cotton. So we just saw in the Gemara that the Iker Beged for tzitzis is tzemer upishn. That would mean all wool or all linen, because we don't wear shatnez tzitzis chas v'shalom. So I didn't see this b'shem Reb. I mean, I saw b'shem Reb Chaim, but I didn't see it in Reb Chaim's Svarim. But one of his talmidim has a sefer on tzitzis, and he brings that he asked Reb Chaim why he wears cotton. I would never have the chutzpah to ask Reb Chaim anything like that. Why do you do this? None of my business, But Reb Chaim, he said Torah hivelomen anitzarach. So Reb Chaim said like this: since the Rabbanon hold that you have to wear tzitzis on all these other begadim, and he puts on a talus in the morning, lisativ, but tzitzis, he already wore a garment that's mechuyev midaraisa. So he wants to be mekayim the mitzvah tzitzis midarabanan also. That's why he wears cotton. Mamish, pillar ployim. So that we could plug that into our Gemara and into what the Kleisenberger Rebbe said, and it comes out that according to the Kleisenberger Rebbe and according to Reb Chaim Kanievsky, so we have a good reason why to wear cotton or even to wear one of these other materials. So, but the catch is that according to Reb Chaim, this only helps all of us that are married, Baruch Hashem. So we in the morning put on a wool tallis. I think most of the talesim are still wool, if I'm not mistaken, and therefore we put on Asher Kedushanim Zaytzid Tzon L'Sata Batzitzis, and then we put on a talus cotton, which is not the mitzvah l'satif, it's only al mitzvah tzitzis, and then we're mekayim the mitzvah of tzitzis to Rabbanan. So it comes out a very interesting chiddush from Reb Chaim, if I'm not mistaken. I'm just conjecturing that Reb Chaim holds that even when you can do a mitzvah da'iraisa, but you already did that mitzvah da'iraisa once, so l'mashal, I think Rabbi Rav Pinchas Scheinberg's Zatzal, who wore, everybody knows, 30, 50, 70, I don't know, it's all machlekes, how many tzitzis he wore. And once there's his son, he said, I have no idea, I can't count that high, So it was like all these tzitzis. So, but they were cotton pretty much. If you just look at it, they're all cotton. So it seems that all these Gedolim held that you can do this in the Derabanan Dika way. Now maybe some of them hold that they're also Mekayim Mitzvah Deraisa, because we saw that there's a shita that every type of a garment is called a beged. But Rabbi doesn't know like that, and the Kleisenberger Rebbe doesn't know like that, and the rest, Mitzvah Hashem, will do another time.